Our first ChemX speaker is Ted Hou. Ted grew up in China, is fluent in Mandarin, and received his BS in chemistry from USTC. That's the University of Science and Technology in China, one of the premier universities in all of China. He received his PhD in physical chemistry from Berkeley in 1995 under the guidance of Nobel laureate Professor Y.T. Lee. After receiving his PhD, Ted spent 4 years at the IBM Almondine Research Center as a postdoc research fellow, and then started his career in the fiber optic communications industry. For over 10 years, he managed product marketing and product development, and later served as the general manager of the passive component business unit for JDS Uniphase. In 2010, Ted joined the solar energy industry and served as VP of marketing at Hanwha Solar One, and VP of product strategy at NRG Residential Solar. During this time, Ted gained experience in solar panel manufacturing, solar farm project financing, and residential solar financing. Ted is an incredibly loyal and active member of our college's strategic advisory board and a co-founder and general partner of the Berkeley Catalyst Fund, a venture capital firm with close strategic ties to our faculty and college, which pays dividends back to the benefit of our college. So Ted's ChemX talk today is titled Opportunities and Challenges for STEM Startups. Ted.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for the kind introduction. Good afternoon. Thank you, Lo, for inviting me to this wonderful opportunity. Did you come up with ChemX? Okay. My last public speech at the college was my prelim. I was talking about cross-molecular beam study of chemical reactions. So I was doing actually cross-molecular beam. That's my ChemX 29 years ago. So, and then I did quite a few things, as Doug mentioned, did some changes, but that comes really naturally for us because we are chemists. We study the science of changes, so that now comes very naturally and easily. Lo gave me this very big title, and even I crossed half of it. I think it's still too much to talk in 15 minutes, so I'll try my best. I picked a few subjects, but if there are things that you're interested in, please feel free to find me after this session or in the future. Well, I'd be happy to speak with you. So regarding startups, there's a database called Pitchbook. They tracked the startup companies coming out of universities. And not surprisingly, we are listed at the top. This is data from 2006. So in the last 12 years, out of Cal, we have produced over 1,000 startups, and we have over 1,000 Cal alums raised billions of dollars. So, and we have done some calculation. There are about 4 or 5 companies coming out of the college year after year since 1995. So as a percentage, we're roughly 5% of our Cal startups. And therefore, I know there are 25 recruiters here from big, presumably big companies. But startup become really a viable source for career path. So people track these numbers apparently. So it's probably a good thing to be on top. But what does this really mean to the university and to our college? Does it really generate 8-figure returns for you, Doug? So I want to use this slide to show a very real opportunity that we can all help to bring returns to the college. As I mentioned, over 1,000 startups, over 1,000 entrepreneurs raised $20 billion. But there's only a trickle of returns from that coming back to the college so far. What we have found is that out of these 1,000 plus companies, few of them actually licensed Berkeley IPs. We're not going to get much return unless the IPs are licensed from us. They might have generated IPs after they finish the university when they're out there. So the number of Cal licensed companies over the number of startups coming out of Cal is way less than 1. It's less than 1% probably. But in the startup ecosystem, I've shown a very simplified version here. University, I use our college logo because I like it, generate a lot of IPs, and they license the IPs to our Superman startups. And when startups starts to generate revenue, a trickle of that, maybe 1% of that, goes back to the college as royalty. So far, that's about it. What my fund has figured out is, as an investor, we invest in those startups. But there is a path when the investments become successful, then there's certain returns then can come back to the college. So that's what we have done, and it's showing this red curve on this chart. So what's really important in my view is to increase the number of IPs we file and increase the success rate of licensing of these IPs into startups. That does two things. That increases the royalty flow when the startups become successful. But also that increases the Cal companies that are going to startups and attract venture capital monies and monies from corporate world. And when these companies become successful, when the founders become successful, there's a philanthropic return for sure, but also from venture world, if we go by our model, there will be returns from the investment side. So multiple elements can become very successful only if we increase the number of IPs and successful licensing. So that's, to me, after a few years of doing venture capital investment, the biggest opportunities that we can get out there. It's out there. Our company's out there, but they're not currently returning much money back to our college. So I want to switch gear a little bit in this short time to talk about the life of a startup companies. Usually we look at early stage companies just coming out of the university. The first phase of the funding of the company usually comes from the government as in the form of grants. And when our professors, our postdocs, our students spend a few years in the lab, they often discover certain technologies that are that could be very impactful to the society, can be very useful. So they come back and then raise money to do a seed round, which is to get to a point that they prove the concept of technology, and then they start an initial market engagement with potential customers. And then after that, they raise the commercial round, which typically is called A round or even B round. And then they go into growth round when they need to scale up, build a chemical plant, build a synthesizing plant, build something big. So it's a smooth curve, hopefully, when company is successful, except this smooth curve is interrupted by these ugly rectangular-shaped blocks. And these are points usually companies will go for to raise more money from venture capitalists. And company will not continue to survive if they run out of money. So this becomes a high stress effort every time they come to this chasm, we call. And what I'll often hear is, why is it so hard to work with VCs and get money? It takes so long, takes so hard, and very few people get funded. So I want to flip the table and share with you a little bit of psychology from venture capitalists' angle. And the answer to that is because the hardest part is really not working with VCs. There are three elements when the investor look at the company, they pay attention to. There are the team, the market, and the technology, and in that order. So let me explain that. When you have an early stage companies, we call them two guys and a dog forming a company. The team is extremely important. If the team falls apart, the company goes away, all the investment goes down. So the first thing we want to make sure is the founders are committed. They're good at working with other people. They're good at expanding the team and work with good people, and most importantly, they can scale themselves. Sometimes a good founder, good manager of a two-man company is not a good manager for a 20-man company or 2,000-man company. So we want to see if the founders can either scale or they're open-minded to have other people taking over their job. So the team is really an extremely important aspect. Then we want to look at the market. Usually when we do some research here and find some good technology, the market is really there. But does the founder understand the way how to approach the market, how to focus on a small market segment that can enable the company to become successful? That's extremely important. And of course, the last element is technology. We usually think the technology coming out of the college is going to work. That's usually not the problem. But the question is, can we convert that technology into a product? And that's the hardest part, because many people, many founders think that they can make a product. But what they can make is not usually a product. A product is usually what people want to buy. So there's a big difference. For example, I brought an old iPhone box, iPhone 5. I think it's iPhone 11 now. When people think about iPhone, they think about the phone itself, right? But what do you see here? If I lift the phone box, what do you see? The box does not fall down immediately because that's too loose. The box does not get stuck because in that case, people will get frustrated to open the box. There is actually a spec for the cardboard box. And the spec for the box to come out is 6 seconds when the iPhone is there. So after I learned this, it completely changed my view of high tech. What's high tech? It's not only for this one box. People make 500 million of those boxes for phones a year. So when a startup company, we have a company, they make really nice semiconductor chips for life science markets. Really good product. But they bought this ugliest box from off the shelf and put them in. I said, people won't want to buy your products if you present it that way. So it's important to get a good understanding of what a product is, just to show a few potential gaps. So we're university graduates going to start companies. What they're very good at is listed as what's good. So they're individual pioneers. They're very, they're specialists in certain technical areas. They think the product's what we can make rather than what people want to buy, and their operation is very creative, very ad hoc and make do. But what makes a really successful company is also what they need to have is they need to lead and empower other people, create scale up a team. They also need to be skillful in multiple areas and be a good learner. And they need to have good customer focus, and they need to have process-driven mindset to run the company. So we're very friendly to Berkeley. In fact, the very existence of our fund is thanks to Doug and the college, where they encouraged us to start this fund, and hopefully one day we'll return 8-figure or 9-figure, returns to the college. Catalyst is a good chemical terminology. We're trying to be helpful to our students and postdocs and faculties. And we make investment. So remember us next time you want to start a company. Thank you very much.